This will be a brief update about what's been happening. There hasn't been a video for many months. I've been still dealing with all the cancer stuff that I usually deal with, so this is going to be a brief update. As always, thank you so much for your interest and support. Please take a minute just to leave a comment if you can. It's just really great to see who's watching my videos and hear what you're interested in, and yeah, I deeply appreciate all the comments and support. So here in Tokyo, dealing with my cancer stuff every day as usual. A few months ago I stopped chemotherapy. This is because I've been doing chemotherapy now for about 4.5 years with only a few breaks, and the chemotherapy damages your body a lot. So in recent blood tests, one of the problems I have is that my blood isn't sticky enough, so the platelet count is very low. Platelets make your blood sticky, very important for wound healing. So if I have some surgery, which I'm hoping to have, then I need my platelet count higher before I can really do that. I found a gastrointestinal surgeon who is willing to attempt surgery on me. The surgery would be to reconnect my intestines, which would make life a bit better in some ways and maybe quite a bit worse in other ways, and it's quite unpredictable, and different people who have this surgery done get wildly different results. Very hard to predict per patient basis. In my case, the prediction is I'll have a lot of issues afterwards if I can have this surgery because of where the reconnection of my intestines would be, which is very low down in the body, hard for the surgeon to access, and a lot of nerve tissue has been damaged and cut away, and a lot of important muscle tissue has been damaged and cut away inside my pelvis. So it would be a very big, major, dangerous surgery, and it may not be possible to do it. The surgery may have to be abandoned. The surgeon has said he's willing to attempt it. It's not a particularly usual surgery in Japan, reconnecting the intestines after someone's had the part of the intestines removed. But for me, it might make certain parts of my life better. So that's a big thing I've been looking into over the past 6 months, really. So I've met a surgeon, usually in Japan, to do this kind of surgery in a high-risk case like mine. There'd be kind of bureaucratic issues. The surgeon would have to apply to the ethics committee of the hospital. In this case, the surgeon is head of surgery at a large teaching hospital, so they're able to make the decision themselves. And the surgeon is fantastic. I've met him a lot of times, and unfortunately, each time I meet him, he looks at my blood test results and says platelet count is too low. And a couple of months ago, there's a weird thing in my blood test results where a certain number is very high, a number called gamma GTP, which correlates to liver damage. So as I said, I stopped chemotherapy, I think 3 months ago now, which is very nice not being on chemotherapy, but it's also very scary because if the chemotherapy has been suppressing the cancer, then the cancer may be starting to grow again. And my kind of cancer doesn't necessarily show up on scans because my cancer spread to the abdominal membrane. If you've been following my almost 5-year epic adventure of cancer, the cancer spread from large intestine into the liver and lymph nodes and abdominal membrane. That was all at time of diagnosis. But it's also spread into my right lung, which I've had treated with tomotherapy, which is kind of radiotherapy. And when the cancer's got into the abdominal membrane, instead of forming sort of large, chunky tumours that show up well on scans, instead you get sort of a spread of very small tumours, 2 millimeters, 3 millimeters, spread across the abdominal membrane, and the scans will typically show things of 5 millimeters and bigger. And these tumours also tend to be very flat, which means even if they are 5 millimeters or bigger, they may not show up on the scans because the scans need to see something with a little bit of depth because of the way that scanning technologies work, the actual quantum effects that they're using. So it's a scary time because I'm not having chemotherapy. Next week, in fact, is my regular CT scan that I have sort of every 3 and a bit months. So it's going to be the first CT scan after stopping chemotherapy. I have a blood test every month. So far, the cancer aspect of that has been okay. These blood tests measure things called tumour markers. Tumour markers have been okay so far. So we shall see. Maybe the CT scan next week is going to show a load of tumours and I'm going to be in very big trouble. It could go either way. So I have to somehow get the platelet count up. So I stopped chemotherapy because chemotherapy suppresses your bone marrow and can also cause changes in liver function. So that can cause low platelet count. But my monthly blood tests, they've shown a slight increase, but not the sustained increase in platelets that I was expecting. So somehow I have to find the cause of the low platelet count, and it's difficult. It could be many factors, hard to test for. So the platelets are the bits in your blood that make your blood sticky. So if you sort of get a cut, the platelets will build up there and heal up the wound. And when the platelets are old, they get destroyed by your spleen, which is an organ on the left-hand side of your body. It's a very interesting organ. It's a bit like the liver, has several jobs, what functions as an emergency heart. So not a heart in terms of pumping blood, but if you have a problem, it can release heavily oxygenated blood, like dump it into the bloodstream, give you a bit of oxygen, which is nice. Seems to also have several roles in your immune system, and as I said, it also breaks down old platelets. If your spleen is big, if it's enlarged, then it can start to break down healthy platelets as well. My spleen is a little bit bigger than it should be. It's kind of the high end of the normal range. So maybe that's what's causing the low platelet count. My platelet count isn't kind of isn't like very dangerously low, but because this is a particularly big dangerous surgery, having a very good healthy platelet count is vital for this surgery. In other countries, maybe the surgeon would just go for it anyway. Japanese surgeons tend to be risk averse, which is why so few people die in surgery here, and very few people die within 30 days of surgery. So the surgeons here are very risk averse, and that's something you see in the patient selection. The surgical techniques and aftercare here are also very, very good. So it's a good place to get surgery if you can get the surgeon to do the surgery for you. So that's been occupying quite a bit of my mental time recently, is going to hospitals, and it was difficult to find a surgeon who was willing to talk to me seriously about doing the surgery. But now I've found one, I am pursuing it. Coronavirus is obviously going on in the background. It's very interesting being in Japan, looking at the coronavirus situation here. And particularly in my case, I meet with doctors and nurses regularly and ask them about what's going on in their hospitals or clinic. So I get an interesting insight into the sort of reality of what's happening in the medical care system here. And then I sort of look on the Western media. There's occasionally stuff about Japan, and it bears no connection to reality at all, because the Western journalists don't have any of the access. And there's also often kind of a language issue. So a hospital so people from the hospital, maybe the director of the hospital, in fact, was interviewed by a British newspaper about the coronavirus situation, and the director of the hospital said, it's terrible, we're cancelling our surgery, and I happen to have some knowledge of that hospital, and I happen to know they've cancelled 10% of the surgery, which is obviously, that's an issue. If you're waiting for minor surgery and it gets cancelled or postponed, that's not good. But that's very different from when people in the West, for example, say, the situation's terrible, we're having to cancel a lot of surgery, and they mean that they're cancelling cancer surgery, for example, which has sadly happened in the UK. So coronavirus is not really affecting me so much yet. Everything continues as usual in Tokyo. Restaurants have been asked to close a bit early to kind of reduce the total number of customers, but also reduce people staying for sort of a long time in the restaurant, big groups of people talking. So CT scan next week, so I shall have some news, good or bad. The CT scan is on a Friday at the cancer clinic, so my oncologist will probably look at the scan with me on that day, but I won't get the proper report until a week later from the radiographer. But I'll get the scan on CD, and then the following week, on a Tuesday, going to the gastrointestinal surgeon at this big teaching hospital, so he'll look at the scan as well, and there'll be a blood test as well. So it'll be interesting to see if the gamma GTP is still very high, which indicates trouble with the liver, and if the cancer tumour markers have gone high, and also the big thing is the platelet count. Platelet count I want to be high, gamma GTP I want to be low, and the tumour markers, both of those I want to be low as well. Those are CEA and CA19-9, which are two very common tumour markers for colorectal cancer. I think that's about it really at the moment. I'll do another video soonish about hopefully non-cancer stuff, because my life isn't just about the long drawn out process, in my case, of dying of cancer. There's other stuff as well, some of it quite good. Please do leave a comment. The comments mean so much to me. Oh, also, thank you so much for the donations that have come in. The GoFundMe, like my crowdfunding, which pays for immunotherapy and all my cancer treatment, in fact, that was on pause because the processor that processes the donations, which is called Stripe, they had done a security update, and we had to provide some documentation, which my sister very kindly sorted out. It's all back up and running now, and really, really, really appreciate the donations that have come in, because they allow me to have immunotherapy, which is a way of treating cancer. In my case, the special immunotherapy I have treats cancer without damaging your body. It's not like you may have seen heard about immunotherapy in the US, for example, CAR T cell or checkpoint inhibitors, where you can get like fatal kidney damage and stuff. The one I have in Japan is considerably more sophisticated than that kind of immunotherapy. This involves taking my own white blood cells, training them in the lab to recognize the cancer cell. Or I don't think they actually train them. I think what they're really doing is taking a lot of white blood cells, looking for the ones that are able to target the cancer cells, and then they're using that kind of subpopulation to produce a load more white blood cells, and then then I have an infusion of my own white blood cells. So because it's like it's like having a medicine made from your own blood, which sounds really creepy. But what it means is you don't get an allergic reaction. So you don't get like you don't get like an autoimmune response. This type of immunotherapy has been done on a very small scale, admittedly, but it's been done in Japan for something like 30 years without a single fatality, which is staggering. So nobody's died from it, which is good. Sadly, because it is about the most personalised, hyper-personalised medicine you can imagine, there's no profit in it for pharmaceutical companies or hospitals or anything like that. It's very, very expensive to do per patient. That's why I'm so grateful for the donations that let me have more immunotherapy and let me live a bit longer, which is very, very pleasant. Please do leave a comment, and please hit the subscribe button and the like button, because it's fantastically powerful doing that. More people see my videos. Thanks ever so much, and more videos soon.